Sky mapping technology, 130 miles per hour a minute ago, just at 90. So the speed, it is fluctuating and really erratic, going from the left to the right of the road. Incredibly dangerous. And from your experience following these pursuits, how often do officers pull back, use this tactic to say, hey, this is just too dangerous?
Well, it has changed over the years, and it changed from department to department depending on the supervisor in charge and what division or what authority is actually pursuing them. 10, 15 years ago, they almost never backed off. It seems like recently they've had more of a strategy to back off. In a situation like this, you can obviously see why. Wanted only for speed, as you mentioned, Mark, but you've got to wonder if a vehicle like this is going to decide to travel at this rate of speed. And, you know, you think about drugs and alcohol. I'm not too sure drugs and alcohol are involved here because that individual seems to have pretty good control of that vehicle. But when you start to think about why you travel at this rate of speed to get away from police, they just saw him fly by. You got to think that maybe more than just driving fast is the reason he's trying to get away from officers. So they will be in a situation, I think, where they're going to get behind him eventually when he can't travel at this high rate of speed. They've obviously notified all of the authorities coming in his direction, 5 freeway. I can bring up Sky Map again. And we're coming down into the Sylmar area. That's where we had the fire earlier. And we're at a really high altitude, but we'll be able to come down pretty soon and get a much better look inside that vehicle. But they do back off, Mark, to answer your question, depending on which authority is in charge and how dangerous they think it is to the public to have a bunch of patrol cars right behind them.
And we're getting to the point where soon, given the speed that he's traveling at, going right there down the shoulder of the freeway, he's going to have, I say he, again, we're not sure who's behind the wheel. This driver is going to have some options. Do they take the 210, the 405, the 170? We're coming into really the heart of Los Angeles and going to get more tricky there with the condition of the road, really bumpy through the Burbank area, but also options of which freeway to take next.
Yeah, that option or that choice is going to come up right here, and I think this may be a choice to get on the 405 freeway southbound from the 5, or this could be the Roxford off-ramp. I'm not sure. We'll bring up Sky Map, and that will tell us. Yeah, I believe this is Roxford on the 5 freeway southbound. If I'm not mistaken, there's an off-ramp that will get you to Sepulveda Boulevard, but that is Roxford. And now things change completely because all the authorities in this area will be notified. And if the suspect continues to drive at these rates of speed on these surface streets, boy, this is extremely dangerous. People could be out walking. Vehicles just aren't ready for another car coming by that quickly. On the freeway, at least there was separation. We didn't have a lot of volume on the freeway. Now on these surface streets, we really look at a situation that could be deadly.
Yeah, and I know, as you mentioned, when we came on here with this breaking coverage, making a turn there onto that side street, looks like it is Cobalt Street.
Yeah, Cobalt.
Now at 30 miles per hour. We believe that this was a Mercedes SUV, and you mentioned the speed. You know, maybe 130 might be the max that this car can go.
Yeah, and fortunately now, I mean, you're traveling at 50 miles an hour in a 35 zone, but you can almost live with that. Something tells me this individual is familiar with this area. I'm not certain, but, you know, to travel at that high rate of speed and then to come to this location, now to stop at a stop sign, we're up really high, so the suspect can't tell that we are on top of him. I don't think there's any other law enforcement overhead quite yet, but law enforcement will be watching our picture, and they'll get an idea exactly where they are until they get their air unit over top of them so they can start making some call-outs to the units on the ground. We are in the Sylmar area. The vehicle slowed down. We did get a report, Mark. They believe only one male driver inside the vehicle. And it looks like the suspect may have stopped right behind that tree. We'll try and get on the other side, but it makes it extremely challenging for us because we have to stay at that high altitude because of the flight restriction for the fire. They still want us above any activity that they may need to be involved in to put the fire out and get 100% containment. So the suspect has stopped. We'll bring this up real quick. I can hit the street, Larkspur Street and Sylmar. And for the moment, the suspect is stopped. I don't know if they met someone and then rolled by because the vehicle was covered by that tree, but now they're stopping on the shoulder.
Yeah, I can tell you, Scott, from my vantage point, I did see a couple pedestrians, people who were on the street. Of course, from this high up, we don't know.
The suspect
there he is.
Out.
There he is, trying just to walk
we'll be around
away.
This.
We see him.
We'll be around this in a moment. and we're able to descend now because we're outside of that restriction. So law enforcement is watching Larkspur Street, 15,851 block there to 15,899 and Encinitas Avenue. A suspect wearing dark pants. It looks like a red and black jacket. Couldn't really tell much more. A man. There's another individual. That's where the individual originally stopped and was obscured by that tree. Let's see if he comes and talks to these two guys. But if law enforcement rolls up here, then they'll be able to identify these individuals.
Taking off his jacket right now. He had on that red and black jacket. He just took it off. This guy walking around like he hasn't done a thing. Shaking
now
hands.
The white shirt.
These could be his buddies, perhaps strangers. You wonder now when law enforcement is going to arrive.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be long. You know, we've run into problems because now we got close to the TFR again. We tried to get lower, and that's why our shot isn't nearly as good as we'd like it to be, but that altitude restriction really did us in. We thought he was going to continue south on the 5. We descended. Then when we went back to the north and to the east, it went right back into the flight-restricted area. But we do believe, Mark, that's the suspect walking back towards his vehicle. As you mentioned, he did get out, talk to a couple of individuals, and we understand that units are en route. CHP has units en route right now to this location. They have it. It won't be long. I believe this is LAPD area, so I think LAPD units are notified, and they'll be coming to this location as well. But certainly an individual is going to travel at that high rate of speed. I mean, they need to get this guy because he could have hurt or killed someone. And we get a better look at the vehicle. And, yeah, I think maybe there's a police car right there. That's CHP, I believe. We pan to the right, and we apologize for the tree, but we can't climb, or we're trying to climb, to get to an altitude so we can go north and see what's going on. So I understand frustrating for you, but extremely frustrating for us as well. But I believe the suspect will be taken into custody here in no time, and we'll see if we can't. Oh, there it is. They've told him to get down on the ground, and he's complying with officers. I believe that it was the suspect. It seemed like he was the one with the white shirt on once he took that red jacket off.
Yeah, that did look like that. And like you said, that tree just blocking that perspective. And he had been walking back to that SUV. I was watching also the garbage can that was there in the area, seeing if he was tossing any of that clothing away. And then you saw it there as that CHP or officer cruised up. You pulled back, and there he is on the ground, hands behind his back.
Yeah, they may wait for more reinforcements. If there's one officer in that CHP vehicle, we did hear he has a suspect at gunpoint, but when there's other people around, there's just one officer. I believe he's going to wait for reinforcements before he approaches this suspect. But right now, his hands behind his back, face down on Larkspur Street here in Sylmar, and we're able to go north and climb now, so you get a good idea. The officer more than likely behind his door, and I think he will not approach that suspect, especially with other suspects around, until he gets some reinforcements in here. He's going to want some other officers to back him up just in case this should go bad. But at this point, it looks like the suspect is complying to his demands.
For those viewers who are just tuning in here for Eyewitness News at 11 a.m., we came on the air roughly 10 minutes early for this very dangerous pursuit. Now, we call it a pursuit because officers, they had pulled back. They decided that it was simply too dangerous. But this guy, he continued at speeds in excess of 130 miles per hour, and just too much on the line for officers to be in pursuit of that type of a driver, heading down the 5 freeway from Castaic through Santa Clarita and here into the Sylmar area. As I say that, Scott, we see another officer. We got backup there arriving at the scene.
Yeah, and I think the other officer is going back the other direction to look in the vehicle to make certain they don't have a threat, somebody laying down in the back of the car. They'll clear that. That's always a procedure, and more officers will respond, especially when you see that suspect talking to a couple other individuals in the area. It looked like a couple other men when he came to this location. They just don't know if there could be, another suspect in the area with a weapon, and they certainly need to make sure they have several officers here before they go out and approach him. More than likely, they'll have him stand up, and then they'll have him walk back towards the officers. The officers right now are in a good position. They're safe. It doesn't look like we have a situation here where if he did turn towards the police, that anyone is on the street. They'll want to try and clear the street just in case there was any type of gunfire in this situation. And I think they're going to want more officers to do that. But it looks like they're going to go ahead, and they're going to go and approach the suspect. They feel comfortable that no one else is in play right now, and it looks like he is complying. The 3 officers with the guns drawn, and it looks like they'll take him into custody here without incident. So we don't know what more than traveling at a high rate of speed, obviously reckless driving, but at 130 miles an hour, I'm certain that the vehicle will be impounded, the license will be lost if there's nothing else the suspect's wanted for, and it's still going to be a pretty serious situation.
Yeah, as you were explaining everything that we're witnessing there, our viewers at home or watching our live streaming were able to see video from earlier on the right side of the screen when this driver was traveling there at speeds in excess of 130 miles per hour, at one point nearing 140, weaving from the left to the right there on the 5 freeway. And you mentioned it is a holiday, Columbus Day, so perhaps less drivers on the road. This being Southern California, at all hours we can really sometimes reach gridlock, but traffic was light. Good news that other drivers were able to kind of keep some distance between themselves and this driver going so fast and pretty erratic there, heading southbound into the Los Angeles area.
Yeah, main thing, Mark, nobody hurt. We don't think that vehicle clipped another car. Exactly why I need to get away from officers at such a high rate of speed. They'll probably figure that out. But it's code 4. Suspect is in custody. There doesn't appear to be any other threat. And we can fortunately report not only that it's over, but no one was hurt, because that vehicle traveling at those rates of speeds, that can be deadly. We've seen that before.
Yeah, we're following this just to make sure that they get him in the back of that patrol car, because it was pretty scary watching that. When we see these pursuits, you never know when something can go wrong, turn into a very serious accident. This one looks like it was handled appropriately. You always question, are the right decisions made? And this one, like you said, You're just thankful nobody was injured.